Ted Phillips is approaching the lectern.
Not wearing pants in honor of Bill Collins.
He is indeed. He's wearing a brown suit and a
lovely fedora.
He's not wearing a fedora. Actually, it's a hat made
of fruit. All right, thank you all for coming today.
Hello.
Let me start off by saying that this has been a frustrating season, to say the least. We've had inconsistent play on both sides of the ball, and personally, it's probably been the most frustrating year since I've been here.
Turn up.
The one constant we did have was the passion from our fans.
Head of the Christ.
Okay. Winning matters to them as it does to us, and they showed us that passion, both in wins and losses during the year.
Wow.
And we're thankful for that, and we're grateful for their passion.
And the money they wasted.
But we haven't had any playoffs for 3 straight years. So status quo was not an option, and changes were necessary. It's difficult. It's difficult to make changes when you're talking about coaches who just 3 years ago helped get us to the Super Bowl. Those are difficult decisions to make. We appreciate the efforts that they put forth for us, and we wish them all good luck in the future.
Shut up.
But for the last years, it's been clear that no one did a good enough job in this organization. Nobody did. We know it's a bottom line business, and we're not asking for patience. What we are committed to is putting a winning team together in 2010.
Who are you crapping?
That's our goal.
Thursday, 5 o'clock, huh?
I know some may disagree, but I believe that the fastest way to improve is to keep the continuity that we've had. With
White
both
guy.
Jerry Angelo as our general manager
White guy.
and Lovie Smith as our head coach.
Why? Why?
When Jerry and Lovie signed their contracts, and again when they signed their extensions a few years later, I talked about continuity being important. I talked about faith in the people that are in charge of our football operations. Not just to put together a winning team, but to also be able to do a turnaround when things weren't going quite as well. And every team has those times. And that's what we're faced with now.
Ooh, cracky.
This year, I'll have to admit, tested that confidence level. It was shaken a bit. But after discussions
that stirred
with both Jerry, Lovie, and ownership, the conclusion was that Jerry and Lovie still know what it takes to win. They both brought us a championship contending team. They did it together.
Which members of ownership?
They're aware of the mistakes that were made, and they're both welcoming change.
Numbnuts.
And in my opinion, when you have change, you're bringing in new ideas, you're bringing in new energy, you're bringing in new passion.
You tried to hire Rod Marinelli.
And that will help our players become the best players they can be. Today's just the beginning. You know, it's a tough day when you have to release certain coaches. It's just the beginning of a team evaluation process.
Right now, by the way,
it's going to take place over the next few months. We are going to put ourselves in the best position to win now.
Terrible.
We have a core of young players. We've got, I believe, 34 players with 5 years or fewer years of experience. Those players obviously need to develop. Our veteran players need to play at a higher level. And we need to bring in some new talent.
Whatever.
You know, I've taken a look at what some of the good NFL teams do. And what they do is they admit their mistakes.
Hire real coaches.
Mm-hmm. They also learn from them, and they learn quickly. And they learn how to turn a bad season around. There's been many, many established coaches who have had years of non-playoff seasons. Well, we're tired of that. And one thing we've never had with Coach Smith has been back-to-back losing years.
Not that tired of it.
There's a fine line sometimes between winning and losing, but we expect to win now in 2010. This isn't a long-term project in my eyes.
That's fine, Sparky.
Let me talk a bit about the decision-making process.
Thank you.
Okay, as CEO, one of my responsibilities has been to put in place and to empower our head of football operations.
Who the hell is he?
I did that when Jerry Angelo was hired in 2001.
Anus.
And one of Jerry's goals was to hire and to establish a very strong working relationship with the head coach.
That's trouble.
Okay. Jerry is accountable in the structure of this organization. Everyone's accountable to ownership. I'm directly accountable to ownership. Jerry's accountable to me, and Lovey's accountable to Jerry.
We're bad.
That structure's been in place since both Jerry and Lovey have been hired. That hasn't changed. It hasn't changed at all. And Lovey has always been having final say in his coaching staff and who plays on Sunday. And Jerry's had final say in roster decisions.
What about the wiener?
The most important thing, though, to me, has been not who has the final say, but how well do the two of them work together
Jim Boyer
to come up with the best solutions for the Bears to be a winning team. I think they've done a good job of that. When we've talked about this structure and worked on it, it's never been said that we wouldn't make mistakes or that we wouldn't have losing years.
I was drunk yesterday.
The important thing is that we make sound decisions, thoughtful decisions, and take smart risks when we need to.
Now it's time to bear down.
You're below zero now in your satisfaction meter?
In terms of the head coaching decisions.
Wait.
I think it's fair to say that Jerry Angelo's input weighs the most. In any high-ranking decision, any decision of this magnitude, whether it's the head coach or general manager, or in any business, the top executives, of course you have input.
Why was Jerry retained?
From the CEO and from ownership.
Dirtbag.
It's no different here.
Likes him.
It's no different here.
What's up, bro?
I think our structure has served us well.
Rod Marinara.
We've won with it, and we're going to win with it again.
When?
Everyone here understands what their position is.
Winning with
I
structure.
understand my position.
Holy crap.
Lovey, Jerry understand their position.
Why?
And we know the accountability that we all have.
Game over.
-2.
The final decisions that were made yesterday.
Taco lovers.
Okay. There's been a few comments made about the role that money played. And I would say this to you, that money was a non-factor.
-3.
Because it quickly became apparent when we sat down and talked that Lovey and Jerry understood and embraced some of the changes, as difficult as they were.
I didn't know that. What does that have to do with money?
They want to get us back on the winning track again, and I have faith that they will
What do
do
you
it.
expect them to say when you sit
If
down
we
with them?
didn't believe, as an organization,
Hire me.
Right.
that Lovey and Jerry could turn this around and get us back to our winning ways, then there would have been other changes made.
It's a manhunt.
I'm teetering on
With that,
-4.
if you have any questions for me, I'd be glad to answer them before Jerry and Lovey come up.
Boring.
Could you clarify what mistakes
Robert.
were made that you think can be corrected?
Well, look, I mean, when we let go the number of coaches that were let go, when we've made a decision to bring in a new offensive coordinator and a new defensive coordinator, that speaks volumes. Okay?
What?
And I'll let Lovey and Jerry speak to some of those details. We need better players. We need to do a better job drafting. We need to do a better job in personnel acquisition. We need to do a better job coaching. And we'll do that. That'll get done. I'm confident.
Just say that money wasn't an issue. Does that mean that if you hadn't heard what you heard yesterday, that you could have written a check and then told those guys to leave or whatever?
We have the financial wherewithal to do what we needed to do. The most important thing to ownership, to me, to the organization, is we need to do what's best to bring back a winning team. That's what's important.
I have no clue.
Did you make that decision? Did the family make that decision? Or how did that process go?
Over the last several weeks, I've had a number of discussions with Jerry and with ownership. And yesterday there obviously were discussions with Jerry and Lovey.
Who in ownership?
Again, to
Who?
come to the final decisions.
Who in ownership?
Organizationally, we're all behind the decisions to keep Lovey and Jerry.
There you go.
We think that's our best chance to win now.
No, you're
Not
not.
everybody
You're not all
does.
behind that, Tez.
Not
Hate
everybody
to tell
does.
you.
That's a lot.
Wrong.
-4.
Talk to whoever. Is it Virginia? Is it everybody in the family?
It's Virginia and Michael from the family side. Thanks.
Okay, so Brian wasn't involved?
And a voice.
Yes.
Not as loud. Not as loud as some, apparently.
Yeah, you know what? I'm not in a position to judge myself. I speak to ownership all the time. We have quarterly board meetings, so I think I know periodically where I stand. So, yeah, I think there's a constant evaluation process going on, and there always will be.
Were they given a win or else mandate? Do they have to win in 2010?
You know what? We all know what we need to do. We're not happy. We're not happy, Brad, with the season we had. We're not happy with the last 3 years, and the expectation is we'll turn it around in 2010.
Is that a yes?
Into 2010, obviously we'll go through another evaluation process and see where we land.
Ted, you mentioned inconsistencies on offense and defense. Why get rid of offensive coaches and keep everybody in defense?
Well, as you know, last year Lovey took over the defensive coordinator role, and he's relinquishing that role this year. So to bring in 2 new coordinators is quite a massive change, and we'll get the right people in here that can embrace the systems that Lovey wants to put together on both sides of the ball.
Exactly. If you're bringing a guy to embrace his system, it's not a massive change.
Is there anything else that they could have said? I mean, isn't that kind of expected that that's what they would say? And secondly, with the track record of the last 3 years, why are they the two that are going to get back on this track?
Well, I think, a couple things. I think, first of all, that Lovey and Jerry have a track record of working well together. Have we had successful years every single year? No, obviously not. I wouldn't be standing here if we had. But they have shown the ability to put together a winning team, and they also have shown the ability to not be convinced of what their mistakes were and what needs to be changed, but they've been thoughtful about it, and they've been proactive about looking at the situation, which isn't easy to do in this business.
Yeah, it's
and to say, here's what we need to do.
It's really easy to do.
And when I heard that, and I think when ownership heard that, there was a better feel that, you know what, they deserve another shot because we've been successful, and we felt good about it. Lovey has a quiet toughness about him, and Jerry has, both of them have not been afraid to make tough decisions, whether it's coaches or changing schemes. They don't always do it in the time that all of you might like them to, but they have recognized when change is necessary. They're passionate about winning Bears football, and I think they'll serve us well.
I like you.
Conversations like in the owner's box when there's 5, 6, 7 no-shows per game, and sometimes the fans are booing you viciously in the first quarter.
You know what? We embrace our fans. Okay, we've had probably one of the fewer no-shows in the league in terms of average no-shows per game. Okay, that's a tribute to our fans. You know, you can't have the passion when you're a winning team from your fans and not expect it back when you're not playing well.
My ass hurts.
So we understand it. Our fans are frustrated. We're frustrated. And, that's okay. But when we win, we'll be celebrating with them together.
Idiot! Give you the best chance to win. Does that connect to the fact that you don't have the first or second round pick next year? You don't have the free agent market that maybe was expected, and there is the possibility of labor discord, not just this year, but a lockout year.
Were those factors that we talked about? Yeah, sure they were, Mike. But I think that the biggest thing is that in terms of coaching, Lovey has the respect of his players. It's not just false respect. It's not respect because the players think he's too soft, because he's not. He has the respect of the players. He has the respect and the toughness needed to be a successful head coach. Nobody in this league has been successful consistently year after year. Lovey's never had 2 consecutive losing years. There are a lot of good coaches, a lot of the names that have been bandied about in the media lately, where they've had streaks of 3 years or more of no playoffs. But when you feel that you have the right guy in place, you go with him, you stay with him, and
the Patriots have been pretty
turnarounds
too,
can happen.
They?
There's a fine line. There's oftentimes a fine line between winning and losing.
Not that fine.
This is insulting.
Now it's -7. I'm never going to get back to 1.
Well, you know what? I'll let Lovey talk to that. I think, in short, that I think Lovey, when we went to the Super Bowl, he was our head coach solely. We had a lot of success with that. So
now he's at the end of the plank is where Lovey is.
Well, Lovey and Jerry together haven't had 2 losing seasons in a row, but they have had 3 losing seasons in 6 years together. What's the big difference between 2 in a row as opposed to...
There was a lot of difference because they built the team. Okay, they built a winning team. 2004 was Lovey's first year. Okay, in a short time, they worked together and built a very successful team. Some of those players are still with us, some of them aren't.
Dead.
You mentioned Lovey and Jerry together. Are there things linked next year more than in the past?
No, you know what? In this business, we expect to win. Okay, everyone gets frustrated with losing. So we expect to win in 2010. Lovey does, so does Jerry.
Lovey's changed coaches a lot.
Yeah, he does. Well, he doesn't.
There's been quite a bit of turnover. Is this kind of the last chance to get it right there with that?
No, you know what? Yeah, you'd like to be able to say you have the same staff for several years. Doesn't always work that way. It's tougher to be able to admit some of those mistakes early on and make the changes before things get out of hand.
Well, what are you going to say next year when you're firing everybody?
You know, the changes we've made now, Lovey feels confident that those will be the ones that will make us a successful team.
Is it going to be difficult to find all of these coaches with 2011?
No.
Can you give them contracts for 2011?
Yeah, we're not. You know what? We think that the opportunities here in Chicago are outstanding. Okay, whatever coaches we bring in, we're going to want them to embrace what we have to offer, which is a lot. And it's a great franchise. It's a great opportunity. And for anyone that doesn't feel that way, then they won't be on our list.
I don't feel that.
What?
What's that?
We have to make major changes, but it's a great place.
You know, internally later on. But no, there's not a concern about not being able to hire a coach with a contract for 2011. You know, 2011 is still another season and a half away. So what happens between now and then?
What?
Yeah, but the contracts may contain that year.
Big impact on who we bring in.
What? Sure it does.
Say that again, David. You know what? The last 2 games, you know, we look at the whole season as you want to look at the whole body of work for all 16 games. So were we happy we won those 2 games? Absolutely. Are we happy that we saw some things that we hadn't seen consistently in the past? Absolutely.
-8.
Did that solve our problems? No. Wouldn't be standing here if those last 2 games solved our problems.
I'm never getting it up to 1.
What was for you the lowest point? Whether it was watching,
Insulting, really. This is insulting. It's really insulting.
players starting to speak up and say,
The lowest point for me,
Believe me, we
was,
know insulting.
I was going to say Cincinnati because of the way we lost that game. I can't say that. It was probably after having a couple other games where I felt like the team just wasn't anywhere close to performing the way we thought.
So we fire Harry Heath then.
We really didn't play well on either side of the ball at all in the 3 games this year. That shook the confidence a little bit.
Do you have an understanding of what happened from a Super Bowl team to 3 straight seasons without the playoffs? And by that I mean, I believe you returned all your starters and you traded Thomas Jones. I believe Ron Rivera was allowed to leave. He didn't get a contract. He wasn't fired. But Lovey stood up when our conference call says, trust me as the head coach to make the right decisions for the team. Do you have an understanding of what happened to that team to getting to this point?
You know, I think if we all had that magic ball to say, here's exactly what happened and here's exactly what's going to happen each day to turn it around, we'd all be geniuses that way and magicians. I think, why don't you talk to Lovey and Jerry about that on the field? I feel that the years we've had haven't been acceptable. At the same time, we don't think the cupboard's bare. We think we've got a good core. And
They're
we don't
clearly
think
acceptable.
That we have to put up with another losing
Go away.
year.
Bring up pen and
You're
teller.
talking too long.
Go away now.
No, it has not crossed my mind that we're rewarding mediocrity.
It should.
Okay, we're frustrated like everyone else is, and we're making changes. The changes that are being made now are not insignificant.
Yeah, they are.
Yes, they are.
Absolutely insignificant.
Changes that they hadn't, there would have been other changes. Did you dictate to Lovey that he would give up the defense? Or?
No, there was no dictating. Like I said, that when I sat down with Lovey and Jerry, they both had already thought about the kind of changes that they thought were necessary to get us back to our winning ways. So that wasn't an issue at all.
We're at -9.
What would you say to fans who kind of left your confidence in the GM and the coaching staff and are going to be dissatisfied that the bigger changes were made today?
Well, fans want to win. Fans, understandably so, are frustrated. They're not happy until we win. They're not going to be happy again until we win, no matter who's in place at any level. So to our fans, I would say to them that we're committed to putting a winning team on the field now.
To the Indian. Yeah, let's get the general manager. Enough of this.
No, I didn't say that. Everyone gets evaluated on their own merits and what they bring to the table.
When you talked about, I believe it was when Jerry was hired before that, while that process was ongoing, you talked about how you felt at that point that the credibility of the franchise was not where it should be in town. People weren't respecting you guys the way they have. Have you reached that point again, or is this a different feeling?
It's a feeling of frustration. It's a feeling of we need to turn things around now. Okay, we're a proud organization. Everyone in this building believes in winning is paramount, whatever their role is, and so we have to get back to that.
He needs to go away.
Seriously, you got to stop talking, Teddy. You're making your life really tough here.
Teddy.
Essentially today, the fan base that wants change, you said you're not asking for patience, but the fans are going to have to be patient. Are you essentially saying today, trust you?
I'm saying that I started off by saying the status quo wasn't acceptable. And it's not.
But it is. It clearly is.
It is significant, and we think they'll have an immediate impact.
If you're embracing Lovey's philosophies, the status quo is acceptable.
All right, that was Ted Phillips, the president and CEO, and apparently on one hand saying the Bears have what is in place right now that can bring them out of this in Angelo and Smith, and a couple cosmetic changes that they don't need to do more than that because they believe in what they're doing.
Right.
And he trots out all that they've done and all he believes in them. And then he says we have to make massive changes because the status quo is unacceptable.
Right.
That's a crock. Jerry Angelo now gets his turn. This should be good.
Hello, Fred.
Okay. Well, Ted, really capsulized a lot of things that have been talked about for the last several weeks here in Hallis Hall amongst us, talking about ownership, Lovey, myself, and Ted, as well as you, the media. So, as I say, a lot's been said. You know, I would rather than give a spiel on what my take is on, what happened during the year, I'll just answer your questions. But before I open it up, I do want to pass on my appreciation and respect for the coaches that are moving on. They did a good job for us. They a goodly part of them were part of what we did in 06, and it was very difficult to make the decisions that Lovey made today that I obviously stood by him with. But as we know, it's a tough business. The product changes year to year. There's no book anymore. And the one thing that I want to make clear and touched on in what Ted was saying, we're in a business of evolvement. You have to evolve. There's no more status quo.
Evolution. -10. I'm never getting back to one.
The one thing that I'm becoming more and more clear in my own mind, you have to stay ahead of the curve. You can lay the best plan on paper coming in, and I thought our plan coming in was a very good plan. Looking at the additions versus the subtractions, when I look back at it, there isn't really anything I would have changed. And I'm not saying that, being obstinate or trying to defend anything we did. I really looked at each and every one of the decisions we made and would do those same decisions going forward if they were presented to me.
How about the Gaines-Adams deal?
That's obvious.
Yes.
What we did not work, and that's why we're here today. So we'll go back. We'll assess like we always have assessed. We're not going to work any harder than what we've worked because we worked very hard. We're
not going to work harder either.
Soundness is the barometer
Screw you,
in terms of how we go about making decisions. The good news is we have 62 players under contract coming back by my count. And that's a good thing. When I look at the 5 draft picks, that gets us to 67. We're going to work off an 80-man roster again this year. That'll give us 13 roster spots, either for free agency or college free agents. So we're very close to our ceiling in terms of our numbers.
Yes,
that's a
college
positive.
Free agents.
It is about continuity with teams. It is about player development. I've said that. When I got here, it's still a league of player development. We'll be on track to do that with a good nucleus in the off season.
Negative 11. I'm never going to see one.
What makes you think this core group, when this head coach in place, is going to suddenly make this huge jump in performance at some point? Is what it is.
Well, we'll do a better job, given there'll be new coaches, new energy. We'll be a little bit better about our evaluations. When I look at myself, maybe I didn't do as good a job, and not maybe, I didn't do as good a job evaluating our team. The hardest thing to do in this business is to evaluate your own backyard. I said it coming in, and I'll say it right now today. Very hard to self-evaluate. Very hard to do. I did not do as good a job at that as what I needed to do.
With which players?
Last year. We will do a better job at that. And it starts with that. You first
that's your opinion.
Know what's broke, and you have to define that accurately. And then once you define what's broke, is it about the player? Meaning, does the player need to be replaced? Is it about the scheme? Or there's some nuances that we have to do within the scheme to facilitate where our players are now? And or is it about continue the development of the player himself? Those are all very fine line, critical questions that have to be answered in evaluation.
We said this last year.
Fine today, you don't even know when you crossed it. But those are the things that we have to, personally speaking, have to do a better job of.
Hacking and whacking. Evaluation. Is it more difficult for you to evaluate these 7-9, 9-7 type teams versus a 13-3 or a 3-13 team?
No, not really. It's more difficult when you're drafting a 32, 33-year-old player as versus when you're talking about a 22, 23-year-old player. And I look at it at the rosters. Relevance to the record. We are who we are. We know we have to do a better job. But that does not mean we have a bad roster. We're not going to sit here.
No, having a bad roster means you have a bad roster.
In part, we all have part of the roster. My fingerprints are on it, just like the coaches and the players themselves.
I've been black all my life.
You talked about the hiring process, and you said that this is the hiring process. This is the beginning. Presumably, now would be the time when coaches would be in trouble or not in trouble. Player evaluation is next, and the player procurement phase, and then comes the draft, and after that, your staff. Do you expect to make changes in your staff, be it the college scouts?
Mike, I'm looking at everything. So I'm not going to sit here and make any determinations right now. We're still going through our evaluation process.
Anheuser-Busch,
our calendar works differently than the coach's calendar. So everything will be addressed at its proper time.
This is the press conference.
I said this
not the proper time.
To deaf ears that those last 3 or 4 games
put on your
were very important. Even though we weren't in the playoffs, every game is important. Each and of themselves, irrelevant of what our record is, irrelevant of where we are in this, in the playoff hunt. And I used each and one of those games as my criteria to make decisions, both in terms of my assessment of Lovey and as well as what we do as a personnel staff. So all that is being processed. All that will be evaluated.
I'm going to the chimp reserve myself.
I got him on call. Don't worry, I got it covered. He's on the way. Bruno's bringing the remains of the driver with him.
Well, we talked through that. I'm not going to get into the nitty-gritties of all the things that we talked about.
Nitty-gritties.
But obviously, we decided that was the decision made to give us the best chance to win next year.
Oh, I love the nitty-gritties.
Get some coaches when Lovey's going to be viewed as a lame duck.
No. I don't think that in the least.
He's a teal.
I know that there will be that perception. I'm not naive to think that won't be. I do not foresee us having problems getting coaches. In fact, I don't really see us going out to recruit coaches and have to sell them to come to Chicago. I think given the fact that we feel very confident we're going to win, and given the fact that we are here in Chicago, I think we're going to have a bevy of coaches, wanting to be here.
The last question.
Sincerely.
Your thought process, decision making, and coming to the conclusion you have to go out and hire a new defensive coordinator that Lovey will be calling plays.
Well, I'll let Lovey speak on that. In terms of the staff, Lovey has jurisdiction over that. He certainly talked to me about what he wanted to do at
this probably won't work.
I agree with him in his assessments of, the staff and
he's a dreamer, ain't he?
what we needed to do there to improve ourselves. And again, that's a question for him.
He doesn't have any balls.
Susan Finkelstein.
No, Peggy, I don't think any of what you said is accurate. I think our chief commander of our football team, he's our leader. We're not looking for somebody to co-lead with Lovey. Lovey feels that it was in the team's best interest for him to be back as the leader of our football team. It was difficult to do as a coordinator and as a leader.
So these aren't major changes.
And in terms of bringing in coaches from the outside, you do want to get maybe a different perspective.
They like playing with each other.
As I said, it's evolving. Bring in some new maybe somebody more tailored to maybe the personnel we have. There are varying reasons. I'm not saying those are the specific reasons. But like I said, I don't want to get into all the nitty-gritties of why we did what we did.
We can get right down to them, though.
Because it makes us the best.
We're going to get down to them.
Now,
so is Roger Starbuck.
To that 0-10 season.
He's available.
Hey, how y'all doing, man?
Future, whether it's staying or going. Did you consider
-15? How am I going to get back to 1?
I want to retire.
I asked ownership if they would want to do that. I said, I have no problems if you're talking about a big-name coach. Personally, whatever you feel is in the best interest of the Chicago Bears, I understand that. I don't have thin skin about that. It's about doing what's in the best interest of the Chicago Bears.
Your job.
If that's keeping Jerry Angelo as a general manager, fine. If that's removing Jerry Angelo as a general manager, I accept that. We lost. We did not meet expectations. That comes with the territory. They chose to retain me, gave me the vote of confidence. And then gave Lovey the vote of confidence. We made some decisions, and really that's what we did. Do I feel would my recommendation be to do that? No. I don't think that's the right direction, personally, for this football team.
Why?
And did I say that at the appropriate time? I did. But again, I understand the big picture.
More in terms of reaching out to big name coaches?
I can't answer that, Dave. I myself did not talk to anybody personally.
Jerry, you're concerned about the scheme, Jerry, the defensive scheme. Are there concerns you have based on how the defense has played for 3 straight years with pretty much the same personnel?
Well, I'm concerned about, there were games this year where they were over at halftime. All right, and part of that, a big part of it was our defense. I'm concerned about that. We have, issues that we have to deal with on defense. Scheme, personnel. Yes, we don't have as many dominating players on defense to do the things that what we did, in past years. Are there some things, that we can do from a scheme perspective to maybe help, better the players that we have? I'm sure Lovey and the staff are going to look at that real hard. So it's probably a combination of the two.
Where are these dominating players? How do you get them?
The decisions made today were those strictly Lovey's, and he had input from you and from Pat, and will he have the same input in hiring replacement?
Lovey and I talk about everything, irrelevant of what he's responsible for or what I'm responsible for. There's never been a player we brought in here from a draft pick to a free agent sign that I didn't consult with Lovey, and we go through it. Do we always agree 100% on every decision? Absolutely not.
He was retarded, too.
I'd be remiss to say that.
Ray Romano joins him and they go sit on the highway.
And it's a union.
Got to think about that one.
he and I have to work. That's the bottom line.
Champagne room.
You like the core, you like the roster, and obviously 7-19, you're always represented. How conflicted were you in making the recommendation to Ted? You know that your input, he weighed the heck.
Say in terms
in recommending keep low. Obviously, you have a coaching staff that hasn't developed a roster that you feel like is a pretty good roster.
It is, and I feel like we did some good things. Dave, part of this too, this evaluation. Hey, admit when we've made mistakes. And that's part of the evaluation. You're going to sit there and say, well, there's no mistakes that were made here. It was all personnel. Well, that's not going to fly either. And I'm not going to sit here and say, hey, everything that went wrong with this football team was because, of how we ran our offense, and that's why we did that. No, that's not accurate either. It's a combination of a lot of things here. And nobody has 100% the answer. Nobody. There's no guarantees on anything. Everything evolves. These are decisions. There are a lot of gray in these decisions. You have opinions. I listen to your opinions all the time. If you were held accountable, some of you, on some of the opinions you give, you wouldn't have a crayon in your hand. So, that's just part of the game. We get it. And, we're just doing the best we can given the things that we have to deal with. And in the end, we might not be good enough. We sit back here, and that might be the end result. But you know what? We have a pretty good track record. We bring a lot of experience. We want to get it right. We work well as a team. Good. And I think there's, something to be said.
Pick up the phone, dumbass.
One of the greatest weapons since Gale Stater's Devin Hester. Teams were fearing this guy. They weren't afraid to kick to him this year. Was changing it into a full-time wide receiver. In hindsight, a mistake.
You got a great stage voice, man. I would say, no, it wasn't a mistake. What we tried to do we just tried to get the ball more into Devin's hands. And you can't fault somebody's thing. Well, has it worked? I think if Devin hadn't missed the games he missed, there would have been a good chance he would have gotten 1,000 yards as a receiver. So what? That would have sounded good. I don't think it failed. Are you saying was he being a more prolific returner more important than what he's contributed as a receiver? That's probably a good question, but we don't know that he continued to be a prolific returner. It's hard to be a prolific returner.
I don't know if anybody knows that reference, but trust me.
I like to be a prolific returner.
Have been a prolific returner for a career. It's just a very difficult job to do because the other guy, he gets paid to do his job. There's more of a sense of urgency.
I'm going to blow my brains out.
Devin's back
let's
there,
hit the bar,
it becomes a little bit more difficult. I feel our plan for Devin's a good plan.
Yep.
And I feel that he will get better. How much better he's going to be as a returner, well, we'll just have to wait and see.
What are you doing?
Some games were over by halftime. How much did the last two games factor into your evaluation?
He already answered.
Well, it certainly helped. I'm going to say that. And I said, we want to see each and every game.
I didn't.
When you don't have anything to play for except your pride and your coach, that tells you a little something too. I've been on teams where, you knew it was their last game and you knew they weren't in the playoffs, and it might have been the last call for everybody. So it did help.
Assume you didn't just cut Ron Turner loose without having a pretty good sense of interest and who was available. And you talked to other candidates and put together a list on offense and defense.
We're doing that as we speak. Have I talked to anybody else? No. We step by step. We didn't do anything to undermine the coaches that were here. We waited to the end of the season. We, yesterday concluded on what we wanted to do and cemented it. We do know of names of people that are out there that potentially will be candidates. Yes, I'm not saying that, we don't have an idea, but we haven't done anything formal.
I'll take that step.
Offensive changes that were made during time in the development of Jay Cutler, the lack of development, how big of a factor was that player in his performance in evaluating the offensive staff?
Well, it's a big part. It's a big part of it, and we decided that in everybody's best interest, changing what we're doing would be in our best interest.
But you're not doing that.
You must think I'm pretty stupid.
A better offense. Not that we were a bad offense. We have had good offensive play here. Our problem has been our quarterback position.
Scott will throw in a little boner.
Obviously, we need to make sure that, what we saw at the end, we're going to see in the beginning and throughout.
Play the Lions every week.
One more question.
I can't look at this guy.
No, it's a problem. We want to get out of that business. You're right.
The football business.
And when you look at all the good quarterbacks historically, they've had the familiarity of the system, the same coordinators. That's a real problem. We do not want to get into that handbasket. This is a very important decision. It's probably the biggest decision that we've had to make since I've been here, other than hiring the head coach. So it's something that we're going to look at very hard and feel confident that we're going to get it right.
I don't.
Thank you, people.
I wish I did.
I don't feel it, Jerry. He said one more question. That was it.
Okay, Jerry Angelo has concluded his bizarre remarks about the present and future of your Chicago Bears.
And he's also, should note, removing his handbasket with him as he goes.
Irrelevant to his handbasket.
Where's Lovey?
With the evolvement and the prolific. Here comes Lovey Smith.
Yeah, he's got a nice suit.
He does look good.
First off, I'm excited to remain in my position as head football coach of the Chicago Bears. I think I'm remaining in the position because ownership, administration, the powers that be have confidence that we can get the Bears back on top.
Billboard fail.
Some of the changes I made today on the offensive side of the football and with our staff in general. At the end of the year, you go through an evaluation process and you figure out exactly what you need to do to make the team better.
Somehow they didn't involve in
that evaluation process. Doesn't necessarily start right at the end of the football season, but you're evaluating everything throughout.
I like loyalty, though.
But after the season, of course, you do make changes, and there were hard decisions that I had to make, some tough decisions to tell some good football coaches that we're going in a different direction. Coaches that helped us win NFC championship not too many years ago.
Yes, too many years ago.
So we appreciate everything they did do for us, but it is about the future for us and moving forward, and I feel like we can do that. Not only did we make changes on the offensive side of the football, we're not blaming one side of the ball for our 7-9 record that we have. That we had this past season. I am moving out of my role that I played, that I handled this past year as a defensive coordinator.
That's a problem for America.
You look at every season independently.
So don't trust him now.
And as you look at the staff to see exactly where you think everyone should be to help the team, give the team the best chance to win. I feel like last year, me being in that position was the best thing to do.
No, I don't.
I feel differently after going through this season. So I will be bringing in a defensive coordinator also.
To do whatever I say.
A lot of questions have been asked about our scheme on the defensive side of the football. It's the same scheme that we played when we did make the Super Bowl. We've been running the same scheme here. We've had different coaches that have run it, but it's the same scheme. It can be successful. It's been successful in the playoffs this year as we speak. We haven't played it as well as we need to. But as long as I'm the head football coach here, that's something that I believe in, and we will keep continuing to make our scheme better, but we'll be running some form of that. Offensively right now, I'm pretty much open. You guys know what my philosophy is as far as being able to run the football. Still want to be able to run the football. We realize that we have maybe some of our best weapons at the receiver position, so we'll be looking to, of course, expand on that. But we're not happy with where we are. We realize that it's been 3 years since we've been to the playoffs. We realize all of that. We know we need to improve. And we will. It's kind of as simple as that. We can get back. We're not the first franchise to go through a tough spell. And we won't be the first one to be able to come out of that.
Oh, yes, you would.
So, of course, from this day forward, it's about doing what we need to do to put a better product out on the football field next year. I'll take your question.
Lovey, how concerned were you during the season that you wouldn't be back?
Bob, I think, you've been around a while. I come to work every day the same way, focusing on the task at hand only. So every day I've had a job, I've worked like that's my last day on that job.
Like cleaning out his office.
So as far as worrying about my future, anything like that, that wasn't a part of it.
Tell me to play
right up until I found out for sure that I would be the head coach this year.
Oh, I hate my job.
You said that after the first knockout season, after last year, why this year, given the multiple aspirations?
Because nothing stays the same. Even 3 years where we didn't achieve the goals that we set, that has nothing to do with this season that's coming up. We're not the first team to go through a tough spell, like I said, and we won't be the last. We're going to make changes. There were times this past year that we were a good football team. We weren't playing inconsistent ball, and everybody was proud of the team that we put out there.
We just a bunch of idiots.
I think we beat that team more than we were the team that lost 9 games this past year. That's why.
Well, I mean, was there players out there that you look at here to maybe give us an example of that maybe you would like to emulate here?
I mean, there's, a lot of, the successful ones. But as far as the blueprint that we would like, I think you have to have balance, period. Especially in the elements that we play.
Fair weather.
Where we play.
There we
I think you have to have balance. It's no surprise that no matter who comes in here, we're going to have to run the football. That's not going to change. But I think you can still run the football and have success. The last 2 weeks that we played, everyone was pretty happy with the team that we had out there. We were more of a passing football team. I think we just want to have a team that can do what they need to do that day to be able to win the football, whether that's run or pass.
You mentioned receivers too. Does that mean would you be willing to have more wide receivers? I know you guys fill out 4 for an outside to be a tight end. Would you be more willing to have 3 wide receivers that you can get both the Devins in there and Johnny and Earl?
Well, I think we've done that. We had 3 and 4 wide receiver sets this past year. We were as multiple. We had every possible combination that you can think of this past year. We're going to do whatever we need to do to win. I know that's it's a simplistic approach to it, but that's what we're going to do. You kind of take what you need to that day.
Defensive coordinator, how important is it someone that has experience in this system, maybe has experience working with you in the past, and how much freedom will that person have to kind of implement his own idea?
Well, when you have a basic philosophy, of course, you want someone with a similar philosophy. We defend our defense a lot as far as the scheme. A lot is being placed on the scheme. There's not much difference between the scheme. Heard our scheme again, the cover 2 scheme. Every team in the league plays cover 2. We're basically all playing the same thing. We talk about it a different way. It's gap control. It's gap control. That's what defense is, gap control. There's only so many coverages you can play. But the person that's coming in, I would like for him to have some of the similar beliefs that I have. But at the same time, as you evaluate what you're doing, and with the new year, you want to bring in new ideas. And that's what I'm excited about, bringing in some of our new ideas, getting some of our old players back. I feel we can put a good team on the football field in all 3 phases.
Look, when you guys were there, Bob wasn't able to have much success in that role. What makes you think that another coach can have success more Bob didn't? And at what point do you say that maybe this group of players doesn't do anymore?
I think, first off, playing good defense is about, what you're running and the coaching that you're giving it and the players. It all starts with that. As we look at our entire time here with our defense, now there were back 2005, 6 in there, we were one of the best. Our statistics said we were one of the best defenses around. Again, same system as we're running right
past
now.
-20.
Different guys in different positions. Whether you're successful or not, a lot has to do, yes, the scheme, and it's to coordinate. A lot of emphasis put on that. It is the position coaches that we have. We have excellent defensive coaches.
You were
I'm
one of
talking
them.
position coaches right now.
We're supposed to trust you.
The players.
Last year.
We are going to have to change. Nothing stays the same.
Then why did we trust you last year?
You hold on. You don't look the same way you looked 4 years ago either.
I do
we
too.
all change.
Terry does.
All right?
I do. Exactly the same.
Part of life, and you keep trying to get better. That's
Don't globalize it, Lovey.
Except for the brief,
a little bit with the scheme,
thing with the Preston players. But other than that, I'm the same person. Good luck.
There were times this past year, even with some injuries and things like that, where we were playing pretty good defense.
When?
Against bad teams, they did.
Teams entirely last year during the playoffs this year. Ted and Jerry came up today and said, things need to evolve. Status quo is not acceptable.
Good teams, they'll set them ablaze.
They think that's inconsistent. Do you accept that?
No, I don't. Green Bay changed one side of the ball. And that didn't necessarily, before that, though, they were running that same scheme, right? The year before, and they were in the playoffs. So, changing schemes and all of that, I think you have to stay with what you believe on how you want to win football games.
2 years
That's
ago.
what we're going to do.
They're 6-10.
And we know it's not like I'm coming up here for the first time saying, hey, we've been in a position where we've won with the things that we believe in. So why can't we get back? And we can.
Another question about the scheme, the issue of third down conversion rate against you guys. You were among the top teams in the league. You create third and long, and yet you were allowing a lot of third down conversions when your scheme is pretty much designed to get to third and long. So I think that's where people look at it and think, has this team been out there so long, other teams have shifted instead of running different versions of it? Is that one of the changes you need to make just in order to keep up with the other teams attacking it?
Okay, Mike, you have some good information there. The years that we've been here, how many years have we been bad on third down? One, pretty much this past year, right? So what we've been doing, you can't say that people are caught up with us. We had a bad year on third down. You look at one of the reasons why we didn't play good defense this year. That was one of the reasons why it's as simple as our third downs. And you know what we've done? Our system, most people want to know what we do on third down. They buy into what we've done. And the statistics have shown each year we're one of the top 5 teams on third down, except for this year. Sometimes, you know what Dan says? You didn't have a good year. It's as simple as that.
Just dumb luck, I guess.
Why we weren't successful on third down. The rush wasn't as good as it needed to be at times. We didn't win some one-on-one battles.
Thought you hired Ron
coverage
Marinelli
wasn't
to fix
as
that.
good. I wish I had called some different things, but these are things that we can correct. It doesn't need a total overhaul with what we believe.
Coach, you made the decision that relinquishing your role as coordinator is best for this team. So we can assume you didn't make that decision entirely just yesterday. So was there a time this year, during the year, that maybe you started to think to yourself, this wasn't the best way for you to run the team, and this is something that you should give up going forward?
Well, you're evaluating what's going on constantly throughout the year. So me in that role, of course, there's a lot that you do as a head football coach. And I knew that when I went into that role. So it's not like it totally caught me off guard. But and then there were times during the year. But it was a tough year, and we were struggling, so we're putting in more time then, too. So there were times during the course of the year where, I said to myself, I wish I had someone else in this role so I could concentrate on maybe a couple other things, but it didn't work that way.
What?
And again, you get to the end of the year, and then you say, hey, how did this work? What direction do we need to go? And you make those decisions, and that's what we've done.
Did Ted tell you you have to win or else in 2010?
No. Ted doesn't have to tell me that, though. No one has to tell me that. And I'm just not talking about this coming season. Every year I've started the season as a head football coach, I felt like we needed to win.
And you don't apparently, though. You're standing right there.
All right? That hasn't changed at all. It's the same routine you go through every year.
It is a nice
suit,
though,
as far as the question was asked, as far as how are we going to convince someone to come here to coach the Chicago Bears, our offensive position, defensive position. Believe me, people will want to come here. Coaches don't deal in long-term commitments and things like that. It's about getting the job done right away. There'll be a lot of candidates that will come and want to be a part of what we're going to try to do next year.
I love it. You have some concerns with some coaches because I guess some teams are going to tell coaches in 2011 if there's a lockout that they will express in their contract. So will you guys do that, or will you guarantee their full contract?
Oh, I'm not going to get into contract. This is what I get into. There's an opportunity for you to come here and help us do some good things. We have a good nucleus of players here that they all see. I think an offensive guy would want to come here and have a chance to work with the Jay Cutler, to have a chance to mold some of the young receivers and get the offense back on track. I think a defensive guy would want to come here and coordinate a defense with a guy like Brian Urlacher and Lance Briggs and guys like that, and fix some of the third downs. I think he's going to look at, and he's not going to see a lot of big holes. He's going to look at us just tightening up a couple boats to get back. Somebody will want to do that.
Couple more questions for Coach Smith.
Cut them off.
Well, Bob, when you're in a position like this, it's not like I've had a long time to think about all of this, but now that we have openings, going to look at everyone. I mean, this is a perfect opportunity to look at the young minds, old minds out there, just guys with different ways of doing things. We're going to look at everyone. Do I have some people in mind? Sure, you always have people in mind that you work with, or you just admire their work from afar. So we're going to take our time. We're not under the gun to make any quick decisions. Make the right ones and go from there.
There's a report that Rod Marinelli was being offered the coordinating position.
There's a report. Now, a little while ago, Jerry, Ted, they told you that it's going through me, right? That report came from who?
Just answer the question then.
It didn't come from me. So.
All right. Well, what happened? Well, was he offered the job? Was he offered the job?
I haven't heard that report, Mike, to answer your question. We're going to look at everyone. We're going to bring someone in from the outside and go from there.
Did you talk to him about the job?
Did I talk to who about the job? Rod has been a rock for me throughout. When you have the title assistant head coach, some places it doesn't mean an awful lot, but here it does.
Was he offered the job?
Lean on Rod for a lot of different things. I've talked to Rod about all of the different things that I'm going to do. Rod would like to be in his position of being the assistant head coach and helping me with other things like that, and coaching the defensive line. That's a full-time job.
Thanks, everybody. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Lovie Smith, Bears head coach.
Wow. What did I tell you? What was your value in that?
Here's what it comes down to. You can't give us the continuity for continuity's sake argument and then say it's obvious that major changes need to be made. You can't do both. Well, we know what we have the pieces in place and the men to lead us out of this, but it's clear major changes have to be made.
But we like our roster.
We like our roster.
We have 67, 80 people here.
There's nothing to take out of this.
Nothing. I got nothing. I've got an enormous haddock. I really do. We got to go.
All right, 312-644-6767.
Maybe they got something out of it I didn't.
WSCR, the score.